What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so this is the situation we have right here. Ian is rapidly intensifying right now, ladies and gentlemen. It is now a hurricane, but before we get into all the graphics, we must talk about something real quickly. Hillsborough County, for Zone A, you are now under a mandatory evacuation. So if you are in Hillsborough County and if you're in Zone A, and we can pull it up right here. If you're, this is, the red area is Zone A right there. If you're in this zone, you need to evacuate. A mandatory evacuation has been ordered for you guys, and further orders may be needed as time continues to go on. So, I want to make that very clearly first and foremost because they just issued the evacuation about an hour or so ago at the time of recording. So I want to make this point very strongly. If you're in an evacuation zone, evacuate. These officials are issuing it for your own safety, and considering what we're looking at the cone right here, and considering how far east it's shifted a bit, considering that this thing is going to be moving slowly towards land in Florida, it doesn't really negate the fact that there's going to be a considerable storm surge with this, because where this is going to be making landfall, the angle it's going to be at, it's going to be pushing a lot of water into potentially to Tampa Bay. So, yeah, that's why they're issuing the evacuation right there. And if there are further evacuation orders issued, we will cover them here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But that's the first thing we need to cover. Second thing we're covering is, I want to show you the satellite imagery real quickly and how far back this is going. We're going to go back ahead and go back 120 frames just to show you what's going on. This was yesterday afternoon right here. You can see things are starting to really ramp up as time continues to go on. We're at 7 o'clock at night. This is when things start rapidly intensifying. You can see the core consolidate right there. This continues to intensify. We start seeing potential eye developing, and then we have this thing really ramping up in intensity right there. We're going to show you it one more time as we continue to talk, but yeah, it went from a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm yesterday afternoon to now an 80-mile-per-hour hurricane, although the pressure is low. It's at around 980 millibars, so as that pressure continues to fall, the winds are going to catch up with it. Hurricane force winds do extend out 25 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds extend out 115 miles from the center. So yeah, this hurricane is not only strengthening, it's growing in size too. And considering that all that convection that's bursting in the center, this thing is going to continue rapidly intensifying all the way until it approaches Cuba at some point tonight. So this is the cone once again right there. It makes landfall in Cuba as a high-end Cat 2 or low-end Cat 3, moves off the coast of Cuba, and then moves towards Florida, and then it starts really slowing down, and while it's doing that, it's slowing down, the wind shear is going to start tearing the storm apart, and it could potentially weaken down to a Category 2 or even Category 1 before it makes landfall. But either way, it doesn't negate the fact that there's going to be considerable storm surge with this. The wind is potentially going to still be pretty bad, especially if that cone continues to shift more towards the east as it has been in the last few cycles. So that's what we're looking at right here. It's expected to get up to Category 4 strength at its peak before the wind shear, which we can pull it up right here, before that wind shear starts making too much an effect on it and starts tearing the storm apart. So that's something we need to keep an eye on as time continues to progress. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and show you the global sea temperatures, because these temperatures are still fueling this system. Where Ian is right now, it's in that insane ocean heat content right here. We're looking at 150, even exceeding 200 OHC right now in this part of the Caribbean. This is why this is rapidly intensifying so much. So that's what we're looking at right there, and we could potentially see an even faster rate of intensification as it's approaching Cuba. And even if it makes landfall in Cuba, guys, it's going to be a net positive for the system, as it's only going to be over land for a few hours. And it makes landfall in Cuba, that eyewall is going to start expanding a bit before, and if it stays over land for too long, it starts to collapse. But it's not going to be over Cuba for like that long. It'll probably be over Cuba for 3 to 4 hours before it moves out to sea again. So we could potentially see a little bit of weakening, but not enough to really have that much of an effect on the system. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and show you the latest track and intensity models. The track models have shifted once again more towards the east, and the H-Wharf continues to have this thing making landfall in the Florida Panhandle. But the HMON if we take a look at the track models, the H-MON actually has this thing making landfall in Pinellas County, where St. Petersburg is, near Hillsborough County, which, if that was the case, that is really bad news, but that is 1 mile run. The rest of the runs have it the rest of the runs have it really close to Tampa. Some of the runs have actually moving a little bit more towards the north of Tampa, which that would honestly be pretty bad, because as these things rotate counterclockwise, it's going to push more storm surge into Tampa Bay right there. So something to keep in mind in the intensity models, Category 3 to Category 4 strength. Right here, my estimate of peak strength is going to be between 120 and 140 miles per hour at peak strength before it starts weakening as it approaches Florida due to that wind shear. We also have Hurricane Hunter reconnaissance out there right now. We're looking at flight level winds around 75 knots, SFMRs around 70. That's how they're getting the 80 mile per hour winds right there. We've been having Hurricane Hunters fly in and day out, and I hope they continue to do that as this thing continues to rapidly intensify. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and show you a few mile runs. We're going to start with the H-MON, and then we'll get to the H-WRF and GFS. The H-MON continues to have this thing rapidly intensify, makes landfall in Cuba as likely a Category 3 hurricane right there. And then it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, where it continues to strengthen down to around 936 millibars, potentially a Category 4 hurricane right there before it moves towards land right there, and then ultimately makes landfall in the Pinellas County right here, as likely a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane as of the latest run. But keep in mind, this is just one model run, and I want everyone to pay attention to that and keep that in mind. This isn't what exactly is going to happen, but there is certainly a possibility. And then this thing moves inland. It starts weakening due to land interaction right here. It potentially moves out to sea again, and then makes landfall in South Carolina before moving through parts of the U.S. and dissipating thereafter. The GFS run is pretty interesting as well. We're going to show you that real quickly. The GFS organizes, develops this, has this making landfall in Cuba. It's likely a high-end Cat 1 or low-end Category 2 hurricane right here. And then it continues to move through, starts really intensifying in the Gulf of Mexico, down to likely low-end Category 4 strength right there, before slowing down and eventually making landfall in the near the Big Bend area, close to the Florida Panhandle, as likely a Category 1 hurricane right there, before it moves inland and starts weakening and dissipates thereafter. The H-WRF run has this thing making landfall in the Florida Panhandle as time continues to go on. We're going to show you that real quickly, but first it makes landfall in Cuba as likely a high-end Category 3 hurricane, continues to intensify as likely a high-end Category 4 hurricane as it's approaching Florida. Then it starts slowing down and slowly weakens as it approaches the Florida, potentially makes landfall as a tropical storm as it approaches the Florida Panhandle right there. I don't think at this point it's going to make landfall in the Florida Panhandle as the H-WRF is suggesting, but we still have a few days before the system does indeed make landfall and conditions start deteriorating in Florida. So anything can happen, and we will continue to update you here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Helps me out, helps me make more videos like these. The goal of the channel is to get more people engaged with weather. One last thing I want to say, and I want to reiterate this: if you are in Hillsborough County Evacuation Zone A, evacuate. They are making these decisions for your safety. So if you're in that zone, evacuate. But with that being said, stay safe.